In the last lecture, we created a user with access only to e-shopping database. But what if I also want to provide this user access to one more database? So in the last lecture, we created this user John, and to this user, we provided read-write access to this e-shopping database. Now we created this user with the help of admin user because only admin user has rights to create and manage users. So now what we want is to this user, we also want to provide access to another database called sample database. Currently, this user John is logged here. So if I say show DBs and if I press enter, you will see that for this user, we are only able to see e-shopping database. Now let me go ahead and let me log out this user. And again, we created this user in the admin database from the admin database. So let me first go ahead and let me switch to admin database. And from there, let's say db.logout. And what it will do is it will log out the currently logged in user. And the currently logged in user is John. So if I press enter, the user has been logged out. Let me clear the shell. And now I'm going to log in admin user. So for that, we can say db.auth. And there, let's provide the credential for the admin user. So the username is admin and password for this user is test123. And again, we created this admin user from admin database. So in order to log in this user, first we will have to switch to admin database, and from there only we can log in this user. If I press enter, the user is logged in, and here if I say show DBs, you will see these are the DBs we have. We also have a sample DB here. So since this is an admin user, for this admin user, we can see all the databases because when we created this user, for this user, we provided admin rights to any database, right? So this user has admin rights to all the databases which we have in our MongoDB server. And that's why for this user, I'm able to see all the existing databases. Now let me clear the shell. And now using this user, using this admin user, what we are going to do is we are going to update this user John. And for this user, we are also going to provide him access to sample database. So let me go ahead and let me write that update command here. So here, let's say db.update user. So in order to update the roles or access of a user, we can use this update user method. There, first of all, we need to specify the username. In this case, the username is John. And then we also need to pass a second argument where we will specify how we want to update this user. So here what we want to do is we want to set the roles for the user. So this should be roles array. Okay. And remember that when we are specifying new roles here, it is not going to add these new roles to the existing role. Existing role is this user has read-write access on the e-shopping database. Now, when we are going to specify new roles, it is going to override the existing role. Okay, so here we also want to make sure that this user has access to this e-shopping database, and then we also want to provide the user access to sample database. So we will have to specify both the roles there. So let me copy this role from here. This user should have read-write access on the e-shopping database, and then let's say this user should also has read-write access to sample database. Okay, and now let me go ahead and let me copy this command. Let's go ahead and let's paste it here. And again, this user was created from admin database. So we are going to run this command in admin database. If I press enter, you will see we have received the acknowledgement as OK. So OK is 1. That means everything went well. Now let me go ahead and let me log out the admin user. For that, I can simply call the logout method on the admin DB. It will log out the admin user. And now let's go ahead and let's log in this user John. So again, we had created this user John from the admin database. So we need to log in that user from the admin database. And password for this user is test123. If I go ahead and if I press enter, the user has been logged. Now if I say show DBs, it will show us two databases, eShopping and Sample. That means now this user John has access to eShopping database and Sample database. And on both of these databases, this user has read-write access. So a very important point to remember here is when you are updating the user and assigning new roles to that user, it will override the existing role. It will not add it, it will override it. So this is very important to remember. If I would have only specified this role, read write to sample database, in that case, it would have overridden the previous role. So from the previous role, this access would have been removed and this new access would have been added. So in that case, this user John would have access only to sample database. So very important that when we are updating the user, it is going to override the existing roles. All right, so here you can see that now this user has access to eShopping database and sample database. And in this way, using this update user method, we can update the privileges of a user, of an existing user. And we can also see the privileges of an existing user. For that, we can say db.getUser. This is a method. To this getUser method, you need to pass the name of the user. If I pass John here, it will give us the privileges which this user has. So you will see here we have the ID for that user. Here we have a unique ID for that user. Then the username is John. This user was created in admin database and this user has these two roles. He has read write role on eShopping database and he also has read write role on sample database. So in this way, you can also check the privileges of a user using this getUser method. And to check this, you need to know in which database that user was created. If I switch to, let's say, eShopping database, and there if I run get users command, you'll see it says that the currently logged in user, in this case this user John, he is not authorized on eShopping to execute this command, this user info command. So since this user is not created on this eShopping database, he has read-write access on the eShopping database. But since this user was not created on this eShopping database, from this eShopping database, that's why this user cannot perform this operation. All right, let me switch back to admin database. So always remember that when you create a user, that user will be associated to a database. Here we created two users, admin user and user John, and both of them are associated to admin database. Also, if you want to check all the users who has been created from the admin database, you can say db.getUsers. And it says, I'm not authorized on this admin user to run this command. So as we have seen, John does not have admin rights on this admin database. Now let me switch to eShopping database. And there if I run this get users command, there also this user is not able to execute that command. Okay, so this get users command can only be executed by the admin user. So let me go ahead and let me switch to admin database, and from there let me log out this user, the currently logged in user, which is John. Let's clear the shell and let's go ahead and let's log in the admin user. So the name of the user is admin, and for the user password is test123. So the admin user is logged in now. Now here let's say db.getUsers, and now you will see for this admin user it is returning us all the users which we have for this admin database, which were created from this admin database. So this admin user was created from the admin database and this John user was created from this admin database. Now let me switch to eShopping database, and there let me go and let me run that command. So from this eShopping database, we did not created any users. We do have some users who have access to this eShopping database, but from this database, we did not created any users. I mean, we have not created any user in this database. So that's why the user array is empty. But in case of admin database, in here we created two users, the admin user and the John user. So you can see that those users we can see here when we run this get users command on admin database. All right, so this is all I wanted to cover in this lecture. In this lecture, we learned how we can update the roles of a user. As mentioned, only the admin user will have permission to create or update a user and assign roles. Other important point to remember is a user is always assigned to a database. A user will always be created in a database. So before login, you must switch to the specific database where the user is created to log in a user or update a user. And same is true for logout also. If you have any questions from this lecture, then feel free to ask it. Thank you for listening and have a great day.